Peace, family, and welcome to this edition of the Drapetomaniac Podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is, the head Drapetomaniac in charge. And we're here for what? That's right. We're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. Last week I posed 10 questions for what I call true believers to think about. My definition of a true believer is a black person who thinks that the present system in which we live can in some way be tweaked, adjusted, or fixed so that it works for our people the same way it does for others in America.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapetomaniac Podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
A true believer believes that people in positions of power can be moved to finally pay our people long overdue reparations and to give our people not only equality, but certain advantages within the system in order to level the playing field for the descendants of enslaved Africans in America, so that we too can take part in the quote-unquote American dream. This week, I'll be answering the 10 questions that I posed last week. Before I begin, I want to say that I am 100% in agreement with those goals on both moral and practical grounds. There is no arguing that our people are owed reparations and that the field would need to be leveled in favor of black people if we are to ever get a footing in this country. And that part of the leveling of the field must, by necessity, include not only equality for our people, but advantages and huge amounts of wealth transfer specifically for the descendants of enslaved Africans. Reparations and advantage should be given to those whose ancestors built and created the wealth of America, but are not only the only demographic that was overwhelmingly brought here by force and enslaved, but endured Jim Crow, mass incarceration, and the decimation of our bodies and spirits through tactics like redlining, denial of fair jobs, education, and housing opportunities, charging our people more for less while simultaneously flooding our communities with cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, and weapons. But after being responsible for building the wealth of this country, we as a people are the only demographic that has never been able to take advantage of or enjoy the benefits of being a citizen. The only way to, in some small way, rectify what was done to a people who has been violently robbed and stripped of their culture, wealth, dignity, and identity, among other things, is to pay long overdue reparations and create systems that give advantage to that demographic until we are able to live as full citizens, enjoying and taking part in the full benefits of being an American citizen. So see, I get it. And not only do I get it, but as I just said, as a moral and practical matter, I totally agree. However, I don't feel that the belief that within this system of white supremacy, any of those goals can ever be achieved and are a pipe dream at best and a complete fantasy at worst. With all of that in mind, by way of explaining why I am persuaded as I am, I will now answer the questions I posed last week. All of these questions pertain to our condition in relationship to this system, to this construct. Question 1. Do black people really have any kind of power within the present system? Answer, no. This system was systematically and painstakingly constructed in a way that is designed specifically to prevent descendants of enslaved Africans from achieving or maintaining even any remote ability to gain any real power, leverage, or wealth within it. We are relentlessly presented with quote-unquote celebrities who are allowed to reach certain levels of financial and or material wealth as a deception to our people that, as they would say, see, you can be successful. Of course, by the standards by which they brainwashed us into. But in reality, it has nothing to do with the wealth of our people as a whole. Antonio Moore spells this out in his article, The Decadent Veil, Black America's Wealth Illusion. and illustrates using data that the few black millionaires like Jay-Z, Oprah, LeBron James, and so on actually skew the numbers and do not reflect our condition as a demographic in terms of actual wealth as a whole. And as we all know, within this system, which is worldwide, wealth equals power, and it was set up that way for very specific reasons. Question 2. If so, what is that power and from where does it come? And can we achieve power? Answer. It doesn't come from any place because we don't have any. So there's no way for our people to achieve power within this construct. I keep repeating, within this construct. Question 3. Can we truly, in the face of history, depend on quote-unquote allies to assist our people in achieving social, political, and economic equality? Answer. No. Howard Zinn explains in his book, A People's History of the United States, how at one point in history there were black people and people of other nationalities who were not black, but not part of the privileged group, who were getting together to plan revolts. And so the ruling class approached the non-black groups and basically told them, and I'm paraphrasing this, we'll classify you as white and give you access to the benefits of whiteness if you will in turn abandon any alliances with black people, to which they didn't hesitate to say, hell yeah, we'll take that deal. So they became white Americans and immediately joined in on putting their boot on our neck. And the rest, as they say, is history. Everyone who has ever trusted them as allies have historically been double-crossed at their first opportunity, or in a situation where it was an us or them scenario. No, we have no allies in terms of mass. Question 4. What is the motivation of those who are in control and who benefit from this system to somehow upend it for the benefit of our people? A people they have proven historically they hate and see as inferior to them? Answer. Absolutely none. For a demographic that has spent literal centuries constructing a system in which they can remain on top and privileged and able to succeed no matter how mediocre they are, the expectation that they would upend that for any reason is delusional on the part of anyone who believes that's possible. Question 5. When someone has the kind of advantage that those who benefit from this system have, why would they give up that advantage to play on a quote-unquote level playing field with a group who has proven they can outperform them in nearly every situation? Answer. For the very reasons stated in the answer to the previous question, plus the fact that as we demand a quote-unquote level playing field, we're looking at it from our point of view. However, our oppressor, within their consciousness, believes in their hearts and minds that this is a level playing field. How can that be? Imagine a foot race between an 18-year-old in top physical condition and a 78-year-old in fair condition. They put the 18-year-old at the starting line with a high hurdle every 10 yards, and they put the 78-year-old 3/4 of the way down the track, so they only have to run 1/4 of the way and jump one low hurdle. In this example, our people represent the 18-year-old. White people represent the 78-year-old. The 18-year-old can yell and scream all day long about how unfair of an advantage the 78-year-old has, and that the odds need to be evened up. However, in the mind of the 78-year-old, the odds are even, because that 78-year-old knows that there's no way on earth they could ever win if he or she was put at the starting line with the 18-year-old and having to run the race under equal conditions. So they'll be damned if they'll let anything in any way change that setup. The setup is designed for them to win, even against someone who is obviously in better condition and has more of a natural ability to win. As a side note, the fact that our people still even exist especially in the United States, scares the living crap out of white people for that very reason. We have had and continue to have everything thrown at us but the kitchen sink, and still we not only survive, but also in many cases thrive. For all the weight that is relentlessly pushed down upon us, we still laugh, we still love, we still dance, we still sing with joy in our voices, we still move forward, we still dream, we still believe and have faith, hope, and optimism. And like I said, it scares the crap out of them because they know we are a people made of a powerful material. Question 6. When we make demands, how do we respond when they say, or else what? Answer. We talk about withholding votes, withdrawing support, marching, boycotting, picketing, etc., etc. We consider that our or else what? Question 7. Is our or else what grounded in reality? If so, based upon what? Answer. No. Our or else what is not grounded in any kind of reality. Those of us who think we have an or else what, or any kind of power whatsoever within this system, is not looking at what's going on around them. It is a classic case of not seeing the forest for the trees. The definition of a failed state is one in which the government either cannot or will not attend to the needs of its people, or a government that does tend to the needs of its people, but due to corruption, ineptitude, or plain incompetence, has lost any amount of moral authority. So, by definition, we in America live in a failed state. I want to make that clear because as some of us go around making demands or yelling about taking back what is ours and making leaders listen to us and respond, I would suggest that you look around you and step outside your bubble so that you can see what's going on nationwide for everyone. We are living in a country that's watching people lose businesses, jobs, cars, homes, lined up in food lines that are literally miles long. And as those who are not part of the 1 or the 10% lose all they have for close to a year, the government has done absolutely nothing. I'm not talking about the measly one-time stimulus check. I mean since then. The stimulus checks were issued in April, nearly 8 months ago, and they just barely kept people from sinking. Now, nearly 8 months later, 4 months short of a year, the government has done nothing except help rich donors get obscenely richer, while families are literally being thrown into the street with winter coming. And let me clue you in on something, because I listen to and research these things every day intensely. In Washington, they aren't even discussing another stimulus package. Even with the marches and the protests and yelling and screaming and threats, they are leaving the people to rot. Why am I going into all this? Because it's white people the government is doing this to. Yes, it affects everyone, and especially our people, but even the white people who are not part of the 1 and the 10%, which is most white people, are being told to piss off and die. The government is and has been for the past 8 months telling white people they can kick rocks. What I'm trying to get through to you is that they, the elected officials, are deaf, dumb, and blind to the needs of the white people to whom they have historically bestowed privilege, and are allowing them to free fall into financial and social oblivion without the slightest inkling of a concern for them as they yell, scream, cry, fall into addiction, die, and commit suicide. What in the F makes you think there's anything we can say or do to move them to do the right thing by us when they are in no unambiguous terms telling their own people they can go to hell. If we think we have any kind of power whatsoever within the confines of this present system, we're more deluded than a child who ties a bedsheet around their neck and jumps out of a window thinking they can fly. And frankly, I am absolutely mystified that our people don't plainly see this. Question 8. Within this present system and with our present numbers in the United States, what is our or else what? And the answer needs to be backed up with history and stats. Answer. Again, we have no or else what. Because the reality is that our people are already one of the smallest minorities in the United States and steadily shrinking, overtaken very quickly by Latinos. Even listening to politicians and those seeking office, they lean heavily to issues that specifically pertain to that demographic. And any conversations about descendants of enslaved Africans are folded into a general conversation about quote unquote people of color, which also includes Latinos, by the way. One of the main reasons our people have no or else what is because we're playing a rigged game in the first place, where the house always wins. And as I repeatedly explained, there is absolutely no impetus for the house to adjust the machines so that they operate fairly. Why would they do that and put themselves in the position of possible losses? Not to mention that it isn't like they don't know the games are rigged. They went through a lot of time, energy, and effort in order to make them that way. When you go to the casino owner complaining that the games are rigged, you aren't telling them something they don't already know. If they were to ever be honest with you, they would just say, of course they're rigged. I'm the one who rigged the damn things. Question 9. Based upon the way that this country, the U.S., was founded and what it continues to do, both domestically and abroad, do you really want to be invested in and associated with it? Knowing the history of this country, the real history of it, and the atrocities it commits both domestically and worldwide, is there any way that you can go to another country, hold your head up high, and proclaim, I'm proud to be an American? If so, you need to study this country's history a bit deeper and research what it's doing now to its own citizens and innocent people globally, and then determine whether you still want to be so closely associated with it. Like a person who finds out they're the descendant of a mass murderer and serial rapist, or perhaps a Nazi, as the biracial woman Jennifer Teague discovered quite by accident that she is the granddaughter of Amon Goth, the real-life maniacal murderous concentration camp leader in the movie Schindler's List, portrayed by actor Ralph Fiennes. She wrote a book titled My Grandfather Would Have Shot Me, and does talks about her experiences and her inner struggles. She accepts the fact that her grandfather was a monster, but she absolutely rejects what he was and what he stood for. One thing is certain. One cannot choose who their parents are or who their ancestors were. But that doesn't mean that you must embrace who or what they are or were. I am an American by consequence of being born here, but I absolutely reject and distance myself from the evil and wickedness perpetuated by this country and the oppression and imperialism it spreads throughout the world, as well as the terror it visits upon its own people and others, especially Black us. Question 10. What, if any, alternatives are there to continuing to fight to achieve equality within the present system in which we have been forced? The answer is a simple one to say, but admittedly difficult in the execution. The answer is to separate from this system. I have said many times that separation does not always involve physically removing oneself, though ultimately it could. But more important, it's about a mental separation, a separation from a mentality of materialism and a struggle for wealth. Yes, we need money to live, and we need to work, but we must work to live, not live to work. Getting rid of the material weights that hold us down and the baubles we chase that we can't take with us is one of the most effective ways to become free that there is. When we live modestly and don't seek to weigh ourselves down with more, bigger, faster, shinier, newer, then we end up also dropping debts that weigh us down and enslave us. And as a result, though we still need to produce income, it's not at the same rate as it would be if we were trying to support a lifestyle that's beyond our means. Separating also involves recognizing the beauty of our people and the fact that beauty exists within all peoples. So let me ask you, whose wife is more beautiful than your black wife? Whose husband more handsome than your black husband? What child is more wonderful and mesmerizing than your own black child? See, you don't have to say another is something less just because you recognize the beauty in yours and place that beauty above it. It is because he or she is your family and you see them a certain way, even though you can still readily see the value in others as well. It is not zero sum. Just as I have no issue with another parent who thinks my child is cute, but their child is indeed the most beautiful that there is, I understand that of course they feel that way. They should feel that way, just as I feel mine is the most beautiful. That is as it should be. It doesn't have to be at the cost of recognizing the worth of someone else, though. There is nothing more natural than loving and admiring your own. Imagine this. You're sitting beside someone at the park and both of you have your adorable babies in their respective buggies. And the parent beside you goes on and on and on about how beautiful and wonderful your child is while paying no attention whatsoever to their child. Or worse, talking about how much better your child is than theirs. Not only would it make you uncomfortable, but you would find that person to be somehow weird or that there would be something off or wrong about them. Same scenario. The parent again is showing love and praise over their child, which is natural, but then looks at your baby and has nothing but negativity toward it, going out of their way to tell you how ugly your child is and so on, because that makes them feel they somehow elevated their child. Now that should not only make you angry, but lead you to feel that there's something equally as unnatural and distasteful about that reaction. There's no need to put your child down just so they can feel better about their own baby. Same scenario. Final example. The other parent looks at your child and tells you what a beautiful baby you have, and then invites you to look at their child while proudly talking about how beautiful and wonderful their child is, while still finding kind things to say about your child and not saying anything at all negative about your child. They're just so in love with their own that they can't help but shower praise upon him or her. Any reasonable person would find that totally natural, as it should be. A person should love their own in that way. As for us, it is for us to love our people and ourselves and to seek our own people as our rescue and to find for Black us what success looks like and the ways in which we should be free to move in the world. We don't have to hate or do harm to anyone to do that. We need only have true love, honor, and respect for our own individual selves and our people. Those are the answers I've come up with. For those who know me, none of the answers will come as a surprise. For those who may be listening for the first time, these are my philosophies and worldviews in a nutshell. And I hope that I've said something that may be of assistance to you. So for now, thank you for listening to another edition of the Draped Maniac podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, That is the head drapetomaniac in charge. Wishing you peace and blessings, sanity and safety through separation. Until next week at this same time. And until then, I'll see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOEAIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.